Hi, and welcome to this week's Black Mental Health is Black Health. I'm your host, Bronwyn Lucas, the Black Couch Therapist, here to work with you to help you become a better you. Well, April is Stress Awareness Month, and we'll get into that just a minute and figure out why have such a thing. But before we get started, you know what we do? We've got to have some breathing just to decompress from the day so we can open our minds to listen, and it's something you can do anytime. But let's take those three deep cleansing breaths. Are you ready? Breathe in, two, three, four, out, two, three, four. In, two, three, four, out, two, three, four. One more. In, two, three, four, out, two, three, four. Just those three deep cleansing breaths that can help you decompress from your day. Whatever may have been going on, give yourself a moment to just woosah and feel a little better. Well, as I said, April is Stress Awareness Month. It's celebrated in the UK and in over here, sort of originating there back in the 90s. Um, And there are so many different awareness month issues that are for the month of April. We'll get to some more of them. But I thought stress was a good place to start. This will be the solo one this month. And I'll have some guests on with some of the other topics. But man, let's think about stress. A lot of times we have the term stress and anxiety, and they kind of, we feel like they overlap. The symptoms are the same, but there is a definitive difference. So let me tell you about it. You see, stress is considered short term, anxiety long term. Stress, well, that is a response to a recognized fear or threat. There has a specific trigger. When you're stressed out, there is something that is stressing you out. For instance, if you have a big project at work and you're like, oh my gosh, I've got to get everything right, or you can't sleep the night before because did I put that last slide in the PowerPoint? Did I do XYZ? So you're worried. It's a specific thing that you're worried about and you just can't figure it out. That's stress. It's short term because once that project is done, it's done. You may stress out about something else, but that source of stress is gone. Or let's say you're a student in school and you have a big test coming up. Oh man, you study, study, study. You're so worried. Am I going to pass this test? Once the test is done, it's done. And so that stress about that thing is done. It's over. Well, anxiety is a little different. Anxiety is defined by persistent, excessive worry that doesn't go away even in the absence of a stressor. You may experience, let's say, stress over a long time, and that stress can turn into anxiety. Or you have a lot of just inner turmoil that you never deal with, and it can turn to anxiety. It can build into it. Now, anxiety is a more clinical term, and there are different kinds of anxiety. You have generalized anxiety disorder. This is when a person just experiences all the feelings of anxiety in an anxiety, anxious mood all the time. No trigger necessarily, and little things can make you more anxious, but you may just wake up and feel anxious. There's panic disorder, there's social anxiety disorder, all kinds of phobias are considered part of anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, post traumatic stress disorder. All of these are forms of anxiety. A lot of different things that can cause us to have that anxious mood. Oh, not a good feeling. You know, in the Christian realm, a lot of people use the term, I'm too blessed to be stressed. And I'm sure there's someone on here who feels that's a good thing to say. I don't. And I will tell you why. This is personal. I feel the more accurate statement is I'm blessed and I'm stressed. As you see, stress is just a state of being, it is a response to a specific trigger. It's something that happens and you get stressed out. Well, when you're in that zone of stressed out, you can still be blessed. When you say too blessed to be stressed, it can sound as if I am stressed, I can't be blessed. And or if I am stressed, maybe there's something wrong with my faith. Maybe I'm not being spiritual enough because if I'm too blessed to be stressed, what does that say about me when I am stressed? Well, any and everyone can be stressed. And I would almost venture to say any and everyone will be stressed or has been at some point in your life. It is your response to a situation. So you can be very blessed and be very stressed all at the same time. Stress is that reaction to a situation. Blessed is more of a state of being. I'm blessed and I know I'm blessed. I'm stressed sometimes and I know I'm stressed. Knowing you're stressed doesn't mean that that's who you are. It means that's the situation you're in and you got to find a way out of it. And there is a way out of it. You know, this show specifically addresses issues in the African American community. How do Black people process stress? Well, you know what? Being Black in America, being African American in America, in and of itself, is a cause of anxiety and stress. Driving while Black. If you're driving down the street sometimes and this late at night and a police officer is behind you, as an African American, you may not have done anything at all. However, you become nervous. Why are they following me? And that's where that stress in the moment, or it may trigger anxiety from something that's happened in the past, or you just see things. You know, we watch the news. Watching the news can trigger stress and anxiety because we see different things that impact African Americans deeper than anyone else. And in looking at studies, it shows that in America, it said every study I've shown shows that his blacks and Hispanics have the highest level of stress, followed by Asians. Interesting. We're at the top. That's not a list we want to be at the top of, but it's true. So I talked about driving while black. What about working while black? You know, right now we're facing a rollback on DEI. On your job, you may be considered a DEI employee whether you are or not. Several people, like 60 people or so, were let go yesterday because their DEI jobs were eliminated. Now, what? Let me just remind you DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. It was put into place because there was a disparity in seeing people of color versus uh, whites in positions. And it's like, okay, this doesn't represent, when we look at the power structure, we look at the jobs and the people in certain types of positions, it doesn't mirror like in education in the universities, it didn't mirror the population of the university. So let's balance things out. So DEI was in place to balance things out. But now it said it's unfair. um, you're a DEI employee. You were only hired because of your color. When in reality, if you were hired under um, a position where they included race to look at to balance things out, you were really scrutinized. You were not given the job just because of the color of your skin. You typically may have been hired um, that way, but you had to prove who you were. But when we roll back the DEI, not only are people losing their jobs, people are not getting their jobs. That's a source of stress and anxiety. It's short term and long term. What about the microaggressions? Just the little things that happen at work that make you, mm, huh. They cause all those reactions, all those feelings. Those are issues where I say just being Black in America. What about the health disparities that we face? Study after study after study shows that African Americans receive different treatment than other ethnic groups, and women, we're at the bottom. That is why we have a high mortality rate when it comes to infant mortality rate or mothers dying in and around childbirth. When I say around, maybe even before or shortly after, because their health issues are not taken seriously. That is a source of stress. Having people say, and these are real comments I've heard, well, I take my chances. Going to the doctor isn't going to necessarily make it better. I'm a black woman. How will I be treated? That's a real thing, but that's a source of stress because you have to think, am I going to miss out on health care I need because I feel I'm going to be mistreated? Wow. How stressful is that? And because that's so ongoing, that's almost anxiety producing that just, I don't want to think about it. And we're going to talk about some of those symptoms and what it looks like. There is something called the sojourner syndrome and the superwoman schema. And this is has to do with the early onset of morbidity in African American women in response to persistent chronic stress uh, and active coping associated with day-to-day demands and having multiple caregiver roles. And this was a study by Leekman, Woods, and Black. And it was like, wow, really? Come up with a name for it. But basically, it's just looking at, again, as African American women, we're dying earlier in some ways or having more health issues because of the roles we play. And the stress that we are under plays into that. Ooh, not a pretty picture. But tonight's about education. So, what does stress feel like? What does it look like? What does anxiety feel like? What does it look like? Sometimes when you're stressed, you get real moody, and any and everything gets on your nerves. You can feel angry, just short tempered, because I just can't take it anymore. Just stop. Just stop. Okay, I don't want to talk to you right now. Or some people get physical symptoms. Can't eat. You have GI issues, nausea, dizziness. I'm lightheaded. Oh, because I can't think. Because you're probably not breathing, no oxygen going to the brain, and you're just lightheaded and dizzy, or just generally unhappy when you're stressed. It's hard to worry, be stressed, and be happy at the same time. And that stress is involved with that worry. I said it's that short term thing, and you might worry that something's going to happen. You worry that this project you're working on didn't come through. You're worried that something's going to happen. So you're worried. And in that moment of worry, it's hard to be happy because worry is taking over. When you're overwhelmed, I can't, I just can't do it. So what does stress look like? With stress, you might just be restless. It might be, oh man, what am I gonna do? I just don't know. I'm just thinking I can't figure it out. That Or just tense. Some people when they're that prolonged anxiety, you feel it in your shoulders. It's just, oh, it's like a knot. You're just tense. Some people will feel it in their stomach. Some people just don't breathe. I was talking with someone the other day and they said they were in a stressful moment and we were talking about it. And they said, yeah, and I realized I wasn't even breathing. I thought about you and thought, oh, you're always talking about breathe in that moment of stress. And then she said, I wasn't even breathing. I was holding my breath. That's how what that anxiety can do for you. It takes over. Some people sweat more, believe it or not, under those anxious times, or you're just generally more nervous. With anxiety, having this feeling of dread, I just know something bad gonna happen. I was talking about that generalized anxiety where you're just nervous and upset about everything. I know something's gonna happen. I don't know what, but it's not gonna be pretty. You're just worried. I'm worried. The kids are going to the movie. I'm worried something can happen. Uh, I'm gotta go get gas. What if I get held up at the gas station? Just that ongoing. Everything makes you nervous. Now, both with both anxiety and stress, sometimes you can have that fast heart beating. Oh, I'm so nervous. People describe it as I feel like my heart is going to jump out of my chest. I can feel it breathing, breathing fast. Or as I said, the person said, I realized I was holding my breath or becoming ill physically. Can't eat. Can't it impacts your sleep. You're so busy being worried and anxious, you can't sleep at all because I just can't do it. I'm just worried. I'm nervous. Can't focus. Um, Let me see. I'm trying to think. Well, when that anxiety is there, that's how you're feeling. Okay, I'm trying to focus yet because you're overwhelmed with life. And when you're so overwhelmed with life, the idea of sleeping, and focusing, not going to happen. It can be very difficult. And again, just that anger or irritability. And you're not angry so much at the person who's right in front of you. You're just that overall, I'm angry. I'm angry because I can't figure out what to do. I can't, it doesn't make sense. I'm just nervous. I'm anxious. So now we do have a good picture of what it looks like. Uh, what do we do with it? I'm real solution oriented. Okay, I gave you the problem. Took half the time explaining the problem. Now let's take the next half of the time explaining what do you do with the problem. And the first thing is if you're experiencing anxiety or stress, stop pretending you're not. As I said, that whole too blessed to be stressed, if you are feeling anxious, if you are stressed, if you have microaggressions at your job, don't ignore it, own it. And the reason why I say own it, when you own something, you have a better ability to change it. I was trying to think of an example. Let's say you're renting a house versus buying a house. If you're renting a house, there are certain things you may or may not be able to do. You may not be able to paint. Maybe that's in the contract. Or if you paint, you have to repaint before you move. You may not have the ability, if you're renting, to say, oh, I hate this carpet. I'm taking it up. I want hardwood floors. I want laminate floors. You can't do that. If you own the house, you can paint any and every time you want. You can change any and everything you want because you own it. So when it comes to your negative emotions and your feelings, own them. Stop pretending that the stress you feel isn't real. When you realize, when you take ownership of it, then you can figure out what are my triggers. If it's stress, remember, stress is the part that has those specific triggers. What is triggering my stress? What can I do to get rid of the trigger? If I get rid of the trigger, I get rid of the stress. So I've got to own it and admit it's real. It's mine. I own it. I don't want it. So, yeah, what are we going to do? So you own it so you can get rid of it. Breathing. Yes, breathing. We're going to practice breathing again, but we're going to do a different type of breathing. And that is box breathing. And we're going to do 4 breaths. But we're going to breathe in to the count of 4, hold to the count of 4, and exhale to the count of 4. And we're going to do it 4 times. So let's practice. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Last one in, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. I forgot to hold that last one in the middle, but you get the idea, and hopefully it's taking you just a little more calm. But that's something you can do on your own. Just stop and do some breathing. I usually remind you in the beginning, it takes more oxygen to your brain and throughout your body. It allows that the moment of just woosah. Also, if you're really in a stressed moment, because remember, stress is caused by a specific trigger, it allows you to take just that much time between yourself and the trigger and to be able to move back for a second emotionally and take hold to it. When you back up for a minute, you might look at it a little differently. You're able to say, okay, it's not that daunting. It's not that bad. Or maybe it is that bad, and now you have to figure out what you're going to do. So take that moment. Another thing is exercise. Exercise releases endorphins in your body, in your brain, rather. And it's just that feel good chemical. Exercising and movement also does the same thing of breathing in terms of if you stop and move and get all that, it takes, puts a space between you and whatever is going on. And the exercise doesn't have to just be workout, with weights and all of that. It could be going take a walk. If you're stressed out at work, if there's stairs, go down one flight and come back other up, or walk around the floor. But get up and move so it moves you away from what that source of stress, that feeling. If it's at your desk, it'll get you up and move you from it. You're moving, you want to, kind of get a little power walk on, a brisk movement on, so those endorphins are released in your brain and your brain can balance out that heaviness with those endorphins and you can feel a little better. You can put some space between yourself and whatever is going on. If you can get outside to walk, man, breathing in the air, getting out of the closed in building can allow your mind and body to breathe in some of this good polluted air and take a moment to woosah. Let those endorphins flow. You can do just like I say, walk or go and literally exercise. If you're in a position where, man, this job is just stressful, I can't do it. Then putting a day or two of exercise into your routine can really be beneficial. A good 30-minute, 20-minute workout to just sweat and get all of that out of you. Which brings us to the next one, sleep and rest. And those are two different things. Rest is something you do to just kind of stop. I'm just going to stop the world and I'm going to rest. I'm going to sit in quiet. It might mean I'm going to go do some yoga. Might mean I'm going to take a slow walk. I'll just read a book. I'll do something that calms me down. Rest involves those restorative activities. I'm just going to be here and rest a moment. Now, sleep is something different. When we are sleeping, we're allowing our body to restore itself. Our hormones become more imbalanced when we sleep. Our bodies rejuvenate overnight when we sleep. Our cells get to rejuvenate. So when we're sleeping, we're rejuvenating. When we're resting, we're just decompressing. We need them both. We need to sleep. We need to decompress. We need it all. Can you sleep? Can you rest? And now here's the thing. When you're really stressed out, sleep is the hardest thing to do because your mind is rest. When you're anxious, your mind is restless. And when it's restless, you are thinking about some of everything. Now, you don't want to jump up and go exercise and think that, oh, I'll exercise and I'll be tired and I'll go to sleep. Not necessarily. That might just rev up your body. But doing some breathing exercises, when you practice listening to nature sounds, listening to um, things that are calming to get you to that sleep point, doing things that help you rest. Is it the yoga? Is it the reading? Something that's going to calm you down and you allow you to sleep. Here's another one before we run out of time as I look at the clock. Eating healthy foods, the same foods that are healthy for your physical body, help your mental body. Eating leafy green vegetables, eating more holistic, more foods that are natural, your fruits, the things that are decrease your inflammation, also help with your brain function. And as your brain is functioning better, it can have a positive impact on your food. What about finding social support? We are not meant to do life alone. Have a group of friends, or at least one you can call when you say, okay, I'm having a moment. I need to just talk and whew, emotionally dump. And sometimes you're like, okay, I've said it now. How you doing? Get it out and have someone who'll listen and not judge. And you be that person too who can listen. Don't judge, just listen. Don't even try to fix it. Everyone doesn't need you to fix what's going on. They might just need you to listen. So just listen. Really? That's what's going on? Oh, okay. Hmm. So listen, but have someone who will listen to you. Ah, don't take on more than you can manage, women especially. Oh, I can do this and I can do this and I can do this. And Christians, it's just the right, loving thing to do to help take care of everybody. Well, we do a lot of things that are good, but I say they're good things, but not God things. By that, I mean the things that you do that are good and that are helpful, they're good. They're helpful, but you don't have to be the one to do them. You are not called to do everything for everybody. You might even be getting in the way of someone who that's what they really need to be doing. So stop doing everything. Don't take on more than you can manage. And to that end, maybe there's some things you need to remove off your plate. When your plate is too full, it's your plate. The first thing I said was own it. So it's your plate. Take some stuff off and say, oh, I can't do anymore. Well, stop. Stop trying. Whew, it's just too hard. Don't do it. Don't do it. Take some things off of your own plate. And when you do that, you know what you might need to do is you might need to give yourself a timeout. Yeah, give yourself a timeout. What do I mean by that? You're going to tell yourself, you know what? I'm going to slow down and not do anything for the rest of the day. And I know people say that's just impossible, but maybe that's what your mind and body needs to do. And maybe the do nothing means I'm not going to do anything that is part of a project or anything I'm working on. I'm just going to go read a book for fun. I'm going to go for a walk just because it's relaxing. I'm going to just listen to music, but that nothing might mean doing something that makes you feel good, but it's not related to anything you have to do. Um, the I have about time for maybe one or two more, and this next one I'll say is there's something called a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique, and we're going to do that one too. I want you to identify in the room 5 things you see. Just focus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want you to think of 4 things you can touch, something you like the feel of. 4, 3, 2, 1. Think of 3 things you can hear. What do you hear in your environment right now? If it's totally silent, think of 3 sounds. 3, 2, 1. Think of 2 things that you can smell. If there are no smells in your environment, what are 2 things you like to smell? Maybe it's chocolate chip cookies baking in the oven. I like the smell of them better than the taste. And 1 thing you can taste. What is a food that you enjoy? When you do those 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 things, you're activating all of your senses. That's another way of calming and decompressing. And when you're focusing on that, you're not focusing on what is stressing you out at that moment. And lastly, give yourself the grace you give others. I say that a lot. You are harder on yourself generally than you are on other people. Give yourself a break. So the stress we feel is inevitable. You're going to have it. It's not going anywhere unless you decide it. And it will come back. But when you're feeling that stress, decide what you want to do with it, how you want to handle it. Let it go. You have some tips to let it go. Being black in America, you're going to have stress. You will have microaggressions. You will have being black while the black well dot 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 while being black. It's going to happen. expect it, but not in a sense of anxiety where it's going to happen and I don't know what's going to happen. I'm worried. It's like, okay, when it happens, I can deal with it. I can breathe. I can take my moment. I can give myself a timeout if I need to. It all can happen. We're out of time, so I will do my call to action. Take care of you. When you are stressed or anxious, own it so you can change it. Number two, remember that the simple things can make a difference. Eating healthy, getting sleep and rest, having that friend to talk to, being the friend um, who someone can talk to. Let it be a two-way street. And lastly, as always, vote, vote, vote. When you look at the political climate, that's enough to cause stress. That is enough to make you anxious just thinking that it's not a specific issue with the political climate. Just thinking about the state we're in is enough to cause anxiety. Thinking about elections, that specific trigger, that can cause stress. Don't let it. Vote and make the difference. I am Bronwyn Lucas, the Black Couch Therapist, here to help you become a better you. See you next week.